Hi everyone, welcome to this old video that I made about a year ago. It's just one of the bunch of videos that I'm re-uploading to just remind you of what's actually going on. I've been re-watching a lot of these videos to see if they're worth re-uploading, and I'm surprising myself sometimes. I just find them quite enlightening, and I forgot a lot of the things that I actually said, or you put it in the back of your mind and you don't really actively think about it. So it's a really good reminder for me as well to go through these videos. So I think that you might enjoy this one as well. So in this video I'm talking a little bit about why it's so difficult to quit sugar or any type of processed food, and or just cut back. So we're talking a little bit about how the brain works and the brain chemistry. And I think for many people, some people only need this knowledge and they get it. They totally get it, and they can see that it's the brain that is doing this to them, and that they just need to take control and they will be fine. However, for most of us, that is not necessarily the case. For me personally, that is not the case. I need to every day practice allowing my cravings to actually get somewhere. But just having this knowledge is often just a reassurance of, there is nothing wrong with you, you're perfectly normal, everything works the way it should be working, you don't have to worry, you're normal, you're a perfect human being, don't worry about it. What's wrong here is the food supply that we have, the products that are available, the things that we call food that aren't actually food. So I just want to reassure you that it is doable. If you want to quit sugar, if you want to quit any type of processed foods, it's doable. The food industry are creating these items so that your brain will react favorably to them. Your taste buds will just light up, your brain will light up, everything will just explode, and that's their mission. They want to create foods this way because that way you're going to want to eat more. Super simple. And that way they can make more money. And the medical industry is not going to complain, because if you're eating that food, they're going to make more money. So we need to take our health into our own hands, understand how we work, how the food is working, why natural food can taste so bland. Let's face it, if you're eating a lot of processed foods, natural foods are not going to taste good to you. Not in the first instance anyway. After a week, it's going to start tasting a lot better. You might actually enjoy the food on a whole different level, and I really want you, if you haven't done that yet, just try to cut out all the sugars, all the processed foods, and taste the flavors of the real foods and appreciate what it actually is. And you might notice that after a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on who you are, you just feel a different kind of satisfaction when you're eating. It's not this high that you get from eating a bucket of ice cream or drinking soda and eating pizza, but you get a satisfaction from eating something like a very nice juicy steak or whatever, and it just feels good in your body, and your brain will light up, but it will not light up the same way as it's doing when you're eating these processed foods. So if you want to try that, please go ahead. On the 10th of August this year, 2020, I'm starting the new 30-day no sugar challenge. You can join that challenge. It's absolutely free. You can join it, you can take part, and you can quit anything that you want to quit. It doesn't have to be sugar. As a matter of fact, I have people coming back every challenge and they're quitting new things. It might be coffee, or it might be dairy, or just cheese, or whatever it might be. So people have different things that they want to quit, and they just join for that thing that they want to get rid of. And I think that just speaks to how addictive a lot of foods that we're eating are, because you can take these principles and apply them to any sort of addiction. It doesn't have to be sugar. So if you want to do that, I'm going to put the link so that you can sign up for the challenge. I'm going to put it down in the video description. So you can just scroll down there, sign up, and just take part and see what is actually happening, and if you can start enjoying food a lot more. Thank you so much for watching, and here is the video I recorded earlier. Today I'm just going to address why it's so difficult to cut back or quit sugar and or processed foods. Because in the end of the day, I'm working with people who want to get rid of the cravings and quit sugar. But having said that, processed foods is pretty much all sugar, but usually disguised with some spices and salt and rancid oils and all that sort of crap that we really shouldn't be eating. So, and having said that as well, most of my clients do have a problem with processed food as well. To an extent, it doesn't necessarily have to be all of it, but I'm really almost a pure sugarholic. But most people have things like bread and pasta that are their go-tos, you know, pizza, that sort of thing, and some others are obviously other type of processed foods, but it's usually the things that contain flour and sugar, and in combination, those are really nasty ones. So yeah, there are four things I think we should be focusing on, and I'm going to address them all. So the first one is actually exploring whether you do want to quit or whether you don't. And I spoke about this 3 days ago in the video called Why Most of Us Want to Stop Eating Sugar but then don't, or something like that. And then we also have the normalization of the huge amount of sugar that we are eating in conjunction with the abnormalization of people who cannot control how much they eat of these things. That is also a problem that we need to kind of address. And then we have things like hormones, and then our brains, how they are designed or not designed to function, processing these kind of foods and the response from the foods. So I'm going to start with the first part. So just exploring whether you actually want or whether you don't want to quit. So I'm not going to go into depth here because I did that 3 days ago. So if you haven't watched that video, just go back and watch that one and then come back to this one, or watch it after if you want. It doesn't really matter. But often we have cognitive dissonance. What that actually means is that we believe two different things, or we want two different things. We have competing desires. So on one hand, we really want to quit sugar, and we have all these reasons in the world that, oh, I want to lose weight, or I need to get rid of my inflammation, or I'm losing my teeth, whatever it could be. And then on the other hand, our reptilian brain, or the lower brain, is just taking over, and it's such a reward, and it gives us such relief that we can't really imagine to have a life without the sugar. We can't see how life could ever be better without sugar. And therefore, our brain is so scared of giving up sugar that it will actually not want us to do that. So we have the higher brain telling us all the logical things about why we want to quit sugar and why this is good for us. And then we have the lower brain, which tells us that we're going to die if we give up sugar. It's probably not a very good idea. So we have this going on in our heads, and that can be very, very distracting, and it causes a lot of anxiety, because when you think that you want one thing, but unconsciously you want another thing, you're never going to get there, and you don't know how to solve the problem, and it leads to a lot of frustration, anxiety, and depression. And what do we do when we have those feelings? We probably eat more, because that dulls our emotions, and then we get rid of that. So that is one thing. Then we have the normalization of eating huge amounts of sugar. And this is a huge topic because it's so simple, but it's so complex. So we have grown up in a society where everything is around food. Every type of celebration, whether that be birthdays, maybe Christmas, Easter, whatever it is, we always have food. All kind of events you can think about, there will be food. Even just my American client, my most recent American client have told me this, and I don't know if it's true for all beaches, but apparently there are a lot of food stalls along the beaches, and they're selling all these kind of disgusting kind of foods that I don't even know what they are, to be honest, because I haven't been there, but they're sugary, they're deep fried, and that sort of thing. So that's obviously not good. Here in New Zealand, we don't have anything of that. It's if you want an ice cream or something, you need to go to a very popular beach so that you can maybe find someone who's open in summer, but you wouldn't be able to get that in winter, for example. So it's obviously a little bit depending on where you live, but I think that, going forward, this is going to spread out. It's going to be more prevalent wherever in the world you are, because we're going to be more people, it's going to be more popular, we're going to be even more addicted as a society, and we're going to expect that that should be there. So if we want to have tourists here, we need to have the treats, and we need to have the food, and we need to have the attraction factor. And unfortunately, food is one of those. So this is obviously a problem, that we are so programmed to think that this is normal and this is how it should be, that we can't really see ourselves doing these activities without the sugar. So I know I mentioned this a billion times now, but your neural pathways are different kind of nerves that are firing together. They get very strong together. So if you are always going to a concert and you're always eating 3 hot dogs, 2 ice creams, and 2 large sodas when you're at that concert, that is what you're going to expect. That is what you're going to crave. If you have any less than that, you're going to feel deprived because you're not getting what you used to, because you have these neural pathway that says that this is what's supposed to be included here. You could potentially substitute some of these things for other things that are equally dopaminogenic, but in effect, you need quite a lot of bad stuff to get the right dopamine release in your brain when you're doing this to actually feel satisfied. And then we have the problem as well, is that people think that it's abnormal for people to not be able to limit themselves. Now, I think this is really, really strange, because looking at society, there's so many overweight people, and I can't imagine that these people are overweight by being able to limit themselves. How have they become that overweight? I know there are a few individuals that probably have a genetic disposition that makes them fat, but the majority of the people that are overweight, they have eaten themselves there by not being able to restrict what they're eating. They don't have this natural stop signal, whatever that could, whatever reason that could be behind that. And I'm going to talk about hormones in a second, but this could also be, it's just something that we have grown up with, but we have so much proof that this is not true. And still, we think that everyone else is thinking it, so we're going to maintain that facade and pretend that we're not actually overeating. I'm all good, and I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. There are very few people that openly overeat when they're out amongst other people that they don't know. They might be able to do it with their friends, but I think the majority are still holding back when they're with their friends. They're not totally pigging out and having a super binge when other people are around. That is usually probably happening when you are on your own. And that's how you kind of know that you have a problem with the food. And it's really sad that it has to go there, because what that leads to is just that we're obviously not comfortable with sharing what is going on. We can't tell our friends or family or whatever that I have a problem and I have a problem with food, because no one is supposed to have that problem. It's not normal. So we're really, really ashamed of what we're doing. And that is crazy, because what it is just that your brain is working the way it's designed to work. It's designed to seek out pleasure, and it's designed to seek out these things that give you a lot of pleasure as quickly as possible. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your brain is just perfectly normal. And yeah, I don't know how much I want to say about that, but it's a shame that we have to feel ashamed about it. I don't think anyone should be shamed about overeating, because it's not something that we have chosen, and it's not something that we do on purpose. It doesn't mean that we are weak people. It just means that our brains have been pretty much hijacked by the food that we have been feeding it. And it might not even have been our choice to do it. It might have been our parents, because they didn't know any better. And I'm pretty sure that your parents didn't want this for you either. So it's kind of this evil circle. And then we have the hormones, and actually I forgot one thing, and that was the emotions, but I'll add that at the end. We have the hormones, and what I want to say about that is the two most important ones here are insulin and leptin. So insulin is the one that will respond when you're eating sugar or other carbohydrates. It will most likely respond as soon as you put something in your mouth. And to make a long story short, what is happening, you get more insulin when you have more blood sugar, and a lot of insulin a lot of the time will make your cells pretty sick of listening to insulin, and they will stop responding to insulin. And that is when we become insulin resistant. Now, for those of you who are insulin resistant, you are most likely either leptin resistant or on your way to becoming leptin resistant. I don't think anyone really knows how it works yet, but on a brain level, somehow the insulin is interfering with the leptin receptor pathway and makes you leptin resistant as well. So, and leptin is this hormone that you will produce more of when you are overweight, because your fat tissue is what is producing leptin. It is meant to tell your body that we have enough nutrients, we are full, please stop eating. So when your hormones are out of whack, what will happen is that you will be hungry all the time because you're not getting the signal from leptin. You still have really high leptin levels, just as you have really high insulin levels, but the cells are not listening anymore because they don't get the signal. So you will feel hungry all the time, and then you have the insulin, which is high, and that could be a problem when you're eating, because you will still have high blood sugar levels, and they will go even higher and perpetuate this insulin resistance. And when you're not eating, your insulin levels will still be high, because it takes a while for insulin to break down, and then maybe there are lots of different reasons for it. Or even you could get low blood sugar because it's so high that all of a sudden you store a lot of carbohydrates, and your blood sugar really drops if you're not eating. And that will make you hungry, but more having cravings. You want quick energy, and there will be sugar or bread or something like that that really, gives you energy quickly. And then we have the brain. So it's not really designed to respond to these type of processed foods. So if you were to eat or gnaw on a sugar cane or lick on a sugar beet or whatever, you're not going to get a huge amount of sugar into you. So this is like sugar in its raw form. It's not, I don't know if anyone actually eats sugar beets, but I remember when this is actually something, a very few memories that I do have from that age. I went to Ecuador when I was 6 years old, and I was given this, it was like a really sugary drink, and it was just, I think they had like used pestle and mortar or something and just crushed it up, sugar cane. And I think it was a hot drink, so they just put the water on, and I remember just chewing on that sugar cane, and I really, really enjoyed that because it was so sweet, and I had a problem at that age already, unfortunately. But in general, even the amount of sugar that I got from that, I don't think that was a huge amount. And you wouldn't consume the whole sugar cane because they're so fibrous that you would probably throw it away. But you will get some sugar from it. But compared to eating a bag of, jelly babies or whatever, it's nothing. Or drinking a soda, it's absolutely nothing. Drinking your sugar is so easy to do. And it has never been a problem for me. I don't know what it is, but I think for me, I need the chewing as well. I want the texture and everything that comes with that most of the time. So drinking sugar has never been my nemesis, thank God, because that is very, very easy to consume a lot of sugar that way. But what I was going to say anyway is that the brain is not designed for this huge amount of dopamine release. So if you have been listening to my previous videos, I have compared a steak to chocolate cake, I think it was. So if a steak secretes or produces a 4 on a scale from 1 to 10 of dopamine release in your brain, a cake might produce 8. So whereas you normally eat a steak and you feel quite satisfied and you feel, happy, contented, life is good. When you have a chocolate cake, it's like your brain is lighting up as a Christmas tree. And it's just satisfaction on steroids. It's like, yay, that was brilliant. I have to do that again because that was so good. And the brain is like, holy shit, this is what I need to do to survive because this is full of energy. It gives me a huge reward. This is the type of food I need to seek out. But the problem here isn't just that we are getting addicted to it really quickly and that we're going to seek out the cake over the steak every single time. The problem is also that we are quickly starting to downregulate the dopamine receptors. And the reason that we do that is that the brain is not designed to have this much dopamine in it. So to protect itself, it downregulates those receptors so that it gets more of a normal response from eating the cake. So what it wants to do is to get the response that maybe that you would get when you're eating a steak, a normal happy response, not this over response that will just send you off to the stars. So you start to downregulate those receptors. So the next time you have this cake, you're still getting more of a response than you would get from a steak in your baseline response. You might get a 7 or 7.5, but it's still less than that 8. And therefore you want to eat more. And therefore, every single time you do this, the more cake you eat, the more over release of dopamine you will get, and the more downregulation of your receptors you will get. So eventually, one piece of cake might give you as much pleasure as one piece of steak did in the past. So one piece of cake is never going to be enough. You're going to need 5 pieces of cake to get the same response as you got the very first time you had this piece of cake. And your brain is always going to expect this level of response, even though obviously it's the brain that is downregulating the receptors, but it's not the same part of the brain. So it's your lower brain is like, hello, where is my reward? I want more of this. This is not what we signed up for. The cake is supposed to give me an 8. Give me an 8. Eat more until I have an 8. Then I will be satisfied. And then, I don't know why I didn't write that down, but the emotions, our inability to deal with our emotions is also a huge thing in why it's so difficult to quit or cut back on sugar or processed foods. So I have been talking about emotions quite a lot, but I just want to mention it briefly again because it's so important, I think. And then the reason I think it's so important is because that we never taught this shit. That's the second time today I say shit. I'm getting a little bit too comfortable on camera, I think. So I have never learned how to process emotions. When I was angry, I was probably shouting and screaming when I was a kid. When I was sad, I was crying. When I was happy, I was laughing. You know, I just went with the flow, I guess. I've never thought about it. But as we grow up, people are always saying to us things like, oh, what's wrong? Why are you sad? How can we fix it? As if we are broken when we have those feelings. We're not broken, we're human. We need to have feelings. And we need to have positive feelings and we need to have negative feelings. We have to have it all. We need the whole range. Because otherwise there is no difference. We would just be indifferent to everything. And that, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to live a life where I'm just indifferent. That's probably one of the worst feelings that I can imagine, to not give a shit about anything. I think when you don't give a shit about anything, that's probably when you don't really want to live anymore, because living is feeling different emotions. So it is really hard to teach this, but you really need to just allow the feelings. And you can go back now, I can't remember what I called the video, but you can go back and check my earlier videos. And Not Eating Sugar is Easy, I think I called it. So I think that was 4 days ago, where I'm going through this process. But it's just about, knowing that you're human, knowing that you're going to have these experiences, know that you're going to be upset or angry or frustrated or whatever it is, and then just allow yourself to feel those feelings. They're not going to hurt you, but sitting down and just experiencing them might feel extremely bloody uncomfortable. And if that's how it feels, you're probably doing it right, unfortunately. So I can't help you with that, but it's something that we're getting used to. And when we get to know what these different type of feelings feel like, we kind of, okay, I'm feeling anxious now. And this is what anxiety feels like. No big deal. And I can just be with it. For me, if I'm anxious, I'm getting this knot up in my solar plexus, and I'm like, oh, what is actually going on? I'm anxious because I'm not a very anxious person. I have never had problems suffering from anxiety. That has never been my thing. So for me to recognize what that was, I was like, what the hell is that? Why do I have this tension in my solar plexus? What is actually going on? But that is anxiety to me. So just explore what kind of feelings are coming up. So, okay, so we want to, let's say, first of all, you need to explore what's going on. Do you really want to quit, or do you not actually want to quit? And it's nothing wrong if you don't want to quit, because sometimes this whole process and just getting mentally ready to quit can take a long time. So don't push yourself, just, explore the area and see where you're at. What are you scared of? Why is it that you think that life wouldn't be as good without sugar? So just explore that a little bit to see what's coming up. Maybe you can move past that and get to a stage where you actually really do want to quit. And then you can start working on quitting. And then question everything. Question why we have food at all social gatherings. Question why that would be necessary. Think about how it would be if you were not actually eating these kind of foods, or if you chose to eat something healthy, or actually eat in moderation at a gathering, even if the food is free. So again, what's coming up when you think about that? Oh my God, free food, I need to stuff myself. But it's not free. It is costing you your health, unfortunately. So just, have a little think, try to be present and, see what's going on, open your eyes and question exactly everything that has to do with our society and food and how we're handling that whole circus. And with regards to the hormones, I think that carbohydrates is absolutely the biggest problem here. The only people that may need some carbohydrates that I can think of are those who are legitimately hypothyroid. They may need some of them. But having said that, autoimmune diseases are usually better off on like a carnivorous diet or something like that. So that doesn't go for everyone, but if you want to balance your hormones, try to go on a very low carb diet. You're going to have to go through some withdrawal, and that is going to be the physical withdrawal, and then together with the cravings, it's probably going to feel pretty shit, but that's what you have to do. And then we have, the brain is not designed to have that much dopamine. The only thing you have to do that is, you just have to normalize that. So you have to pretty much quit or, at least cut down on the cake. And cutting down is often much harder to do because you're still eating it. So you're kind of triggering it and you're reinforcing this pathway, but you're not following through the whole way. And that can be extremely frustrating. So if you're able to not engage in that neural pathway at all and you can stay away from it, it's usually easier to do. And then if you actually want to have some sugar in your life, once you're free from it, then you can start adding it back. And I have a very specific way of doing that so that you're not falling back into your old habits. But I'm not going to go through that today. And then obviously your emotions, I just spoke about that, how to sit with that and just be with that. So I hope that has been a little bit helpful in terms of understanding why it's so hard, so there's so many components to it. It's not just one thing. So that's the problem. Many people are like me. I used to focus on just the diet and eating a low carb diet to balance my hormones, and that works for the cravings, like the physical cravings, but not for the mental cravings. And I never addressed that. And then you have these emotional eating health coaches or whatever they are. They might be focusing on just your habits or why you're eating. But I think many of them are approaching it in a way that is not as easy to use. I think it's better for you to just be with your feelings. You can obviously go to a therapist and dig into your past if you like, but I don't think that that's necessarily necessary or useful. Some of you might choose to do that. So that was pretty much that. So yeah, I hope that together has provided some relief if you feel like you're a bit out of control and you're struggling with actually quitting, and that you now understand that it's more than just one thing. And if we want to be successful with quitting, you need to address all of these things together. It's really, really hard to do if you just take one component at a time. Take them all and do them all at the same time, and you will have the best chance of actually getting there.